And on the welding screen, you will see I have a little piece of silver here. And on this, there's my porosity right there. We made it a little bit bigger than normal, just so that you could see it. Alright, so we switched to this angle here. We made the hole, or we made our porosity pretty big, just so that you'd be able to see. But what we're going to do is come in here, and we're just going to put a couple welds in the area. So we'll just continue welding in this area where we had porosity. And what that's doing is just like that picture we showed. It's filling in the little holes and making it so that when we do cover it with metal, we're not just covering up a hole. Then when we polish it, buff it and polish it, that's not going to be an issue. We won't have any more porosity. So there, we've welded in that area. It did cave in a little bit, which means there are little pockets of porosity underneath. And then we're going to start adding metal, okay? So, I think I'll just get started with that. Now, just like in past episodes, there's different sizes of wire you can use. This is a 28 gauge, and we've weaved it together so that it's thicker. It'll help us to fill in this hole a lot quicker. And since this is a big hole, I'm actually going to take it one step further and move my power up on my 100C to about 25. I'm going to use a thicker piece of metal. And fill that hole in quickly. And then once I get a little bit of it filled in, I'll move to my smaller wire. So you can see where I've added this. What I'm going to do is then just cut this off. So that's out of the way. And I'm going to turn my power up a little bit more just to kind of get that down and out. And again, there's no right or wrong way to add your metal, okay? There's different methods that people take. I like to do it this way and then, trim this off. And then I'll start using the balled up wire here. And I just have my power at 15 watt seconds for this wire. And this is silver. This is a silver ring I'm working with here. And we're just going to fill that in slowly but surely. Just adjusting my settings a little bit. And you move that around. You can build up your metal and then move it around as we've talked about in other episodes. And then another thing you can do, once you get a little bit of metal built up there, we've talked about this, but you can make your electrode have a little bit of a flat tip. So it's not completely sharp. And that's going to help pound that metal down. especially when you're using a higher power. So as you can see now, really smooths out that area where we've added metal. Now hopefully the porosity that you may be dealing with will be you know, less of an area than what we have here. But there we've added our metal. We've filled in a little bit where that porosity is. I'm just going to put in a little bit more. Break that wire off. Put a little bit more right here. And this is a great, hopefully you're able to see how we're adding that metal. And it's a lot of times when you're doing this, when you're adding metal to an area, you just have to, you know, touch the side of it, hit on top of it, and you'll see that it'll start grabbing that metal and pulling it. You can see as I touch this the outside of the mountain here, it's going to pull it forward. And then over here, it's going to pull it to the left, pull it to the right. And that's what you do when you're moving that metal around and when you're feeling the area of porosity. That's what you need to do. Sometimes when something's come out of the, you know, being casted, you'll have a big area of porosity. So there we've built up the metal. We could probably add more, not probably, we definitely could add more around it, but for sake of training, the next step, what you would do is then bring it to your buffing and sanding wheel. Now, we're going to use a jewel tool. We'll cut to a different camera angle. Close-up camera. Is that a good angle? Alright, so right down here, you can see that we uncovered an area that had some porosity just by buffing. And then here you can see the areas where we didn't add enough metal. That's okay. Then you just start over, fill in those areas and buff, and then you're good to go. You can see right here in the middle and even along this edge right here, we added enough metal, we buffed it out, and it's perfect. So then we would go back in and just do these areas that we haven't filled yet. And just do the same thing we showed you, add metal, buff it out, and then polish it, and you're good to go. So there's a couple other things I want to talk about.